What's up, everybody? Thralls of Metal here. I'm Jammin Jon.
Miller. Necrotic Nick.
Shredlord.
And we are bringing you yet another long-awaited ranking from the band Mastodon. Mastodon, to me personally, has been one of my all-time... It's got to be in my top 10, if not my top 5 favorite bands that there ever were, since finding out about them years and years ago. All of us, I know, we've all seen Mastodon quite a few times. Most of these records, I know like the back of my fucking hand, which is what made it personally really difficult for me to rank. But I think we can all say that Mastodon is pretty much top-notch when it comes to prog rock, rock band, metal...
whatever they want to be.
Whatever they want to be, they sure do a damn good job at it.
Constantly evolving sound, starting off in one era and then just kind of moving into completely different sound, but still it's instantly recognizable as them. So that's definitely something.
And even through, like, for me, I kind of fell out a little bit with the band where they kind of got a little more poppy and more accessible. The punk in me, I was like, oh, fuck that, But then hearing so much of that done really bad, you go back and you listen and you're like, damn, this is, like, really good stuff. And it really changed around the ranking for me when going through this in my head a little bit.
Mastodon is a band that entered my life in my early 20s, and they never left. They've been one of my favorite bands since then. When I discovered the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie and found out that they are the band that recorded that amazing cartoon before the movie, I knew I had to see what these guys were about. And
Cut up with a linoleum.
Cut you with a linoleum.
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
Yep.
Do not crinkle. Watch. Yep. Do not crinkle your food wrappers loudly. Be considerate to others, or I will bite your torso
and give you a disease.
I was super stoked when I found out that they were doing that before the movie came out. I was a big fan of both. I was like, oh my god,
that drew me in because I was a huge Aqua Teen Hunger Force fan.
Yeah.
Still am.
Yep.
Carl, you're my boy.
Carl.
And then, not too long after that, Crack the Skye came out, and that is one of that album kind of musically is one of those albums that like changed my life as a musician, guitar player, just listener. I still listen to it a lot to this day, so yeah, they'll always have a very special place in my heart.
So I think it's all safe to say that for us, this ranking was probably fairly difficult. And it seems like we say that with every ranking, but when you come across a band that's incredibly consistent...
They have no bad albums.
There's
no
not...
bad albums.
That's why. Like, you putting one album over another, just like, man...
It's all preference.
And even for the albums I like less, there's still songs on that album that I think are fucking amazing that cross the airwaves for me all the time.
And it's like the bulk of the album, too. It isn't like, well, I mean, all these songs are like a little bit weaker. It's like, no, there's a ton of really good songs. It's just like, I like this one just a bit more.
Yeah, I even text you guys like, man, this is really hard to put numbers to. Even more so than like Corpse or... I mean, it's... whatever.
I
bitch about it all the time.
I usually have an easy time ranking albums just because I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. But this one was like, I had to really think, man. Like, I just wanted it to be honest and a true representation, and man, it took some time, but fuck it. Let's get into it.
Yep. So, Mastodon, formed in 2000. Bill Kelleher and Bron Daler were originally living in Victor, New York. Bron was in the band Today Is the Day, and Bill was in Lethargy, and they decided to leave that and move to Atlanta, where they met up with Troy Sanders and Brent Hines, who were in 4 Hour Fogger. All 4 of them actually met at a High on Fire show.
Thank you, Matt Pike, for bringing them together.
Yeah, no shit.
Yet again, thank that man for doing something.
I generally just thank him for being Matt Pike.
Yeah, he's pretty much the Lemmy of our generation.
So yeah, they met at a High on Fire show. They got to talking and figured out that they all loved sludge metal and Neurosis and the Melvins and Iron Maiden. Obviously great bands, so they decided that they were going to form Mastodon. They got together with their buddy Eric Sainer. They recorded a 9-song demo. That 9-song demo would later on become Call of the Mastodon, which we decided to leave out of this ranking because it was simply a compilation of the songs comprised of the early days. Somewhere after the recording, Eric Sainer decides that he doesn't want to do Mastodon, so he exits the band. Stupid, in my opinion. So the band goes on later that same year to record a 4-song demo, simply titled 4-Song Demo.
The album titles will get much more creative later on.
Yeah.
So in 2001, the band releases the 7-inch picture disc entitled Slick Leg, which had 2 songs from either the 4-song demo or the 9-song demo, whatever you want to call it, along with Slick Leg. Shortly after that independent release, also in 2001, somehow that little 3-song EP, I guess you would call it, Slick Leg, lands them a signing with Relapse Records. And so in 2001, coming off of Slick Leg, the band releases a 5-song EP called Life's Blood on Relapse Records. Relapse signs the band, which I think was a good choice for them. I have the Life's Blood EP.
Same.
Yep. And I looked it up. That's actually going for a considerable amount of money. Not as much as the vinyl would. The vinyl's even tougher to find. That's your job. Actually, one of my more favorite Mastodon songs, at least of the early years, Battle at Sea, is on that album.
It's a fucking bruiser of an EP.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely a much more early raw sound for these guys. Before anybody did any singing, they were kind of a heavier sludge band. And so after that EP, we get actually down to the nitty-gritty of Mastodon. Because shortly thereafter, on May 28th of 2002, Mastodon released their first full-length on Relapse Records, Remission. This was my first formal introduction to Mastodon. This was produced by Matt Bales, who they would use as a producer for the next several records. This personally is my number 3. I love the shit out of this record. The song Trainwreck actually is one of my favorite all-time Mastodon songs. Of course, you get March of the Fire Ants, Crusher Destroyer. I'm not going to name off all the songs because I'm going to leave some for these guys, but this is again when Mastodon was really early on and still notably a lot fucking heavier than they are now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, dude, just a fucking killer record from start to finish. Which is what I'm going to say pretty much about all the Mastodon records.
Yeah.
Because that's where we're at. But yeah.
Not a bad theme to have.
No.
I had this at number 4. This was also my first Mastodon record. I remembered hearing the single March of the Fire Ants on a Relapse compilation and just being struck by how fucking heavy it was, but with those really just unique sort of like creepy lead melodies that are on there. Like it was almost proggy, but at the same time it felt like I was listening to like the dirtiest Melvins album ever. Like Gluey Porch Treatments or fucking Ozma level fucking Melvins, like the early gnarly stuff. This album should hold a world record for the world's longest drum fill. Because, oh my god,
yeah, dude.
The drums are insane on here. And that was something that immediately struck me, like how busy the drums were. But it still flowed really well. Like, the songs still were groovy. They had, like, weird transitions, but they were really fun. Like, Crusher Destroyer, Mother Puncher
dude,
is like a top 5 riff.
Yeah. The riff to Mother Puncher is...
Dude.
It's like one of my favorite songs ever.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there was just a video of Bill and Brent going through some of their favorite like heavy Mastodon riffs, and I'm almost positive that was on the. I think the last riff to Mother Puncher, the ending riff to Mother Puncher.
Dude, the live version of that on the Workhorse Chronicles DVD.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
I've seen it live twice this year.
So well, not twice this year, but I've seen that song live at least twice.
With Mother Puncher, and like that's just such a bruiser. I also like that this one you can really hear like the Neurosis sort of influence, like the atmosphere is very fucking dark and dingy, and that's something that would start to change later. But yeah, this album's fucking fantastic, and this was honestly one of my favorite ones to go back to because I hadn't listened to it in a while because, you know, New Mastodon's really fucking good too. But yeah, killer fucking album.
Which is why it's my number 1. And I love this album. I loved it since the first day I heard it, and it was I was chilling with the band, and I don't remember who. It's just that was a blur of shows and work and whatever. But dude was like, "Oh, you got to listen to this song called March of the Fire Ants." He put it on. Immediately was like, "Holy shit, this is crazy good." And was a fan, have been a fan ever since. Crusher Destroyer going into March of the Fire Ants is like one of the best 1-2 punches opening an album that I can think of. Really, there's a lot of solid openings to albums, but going 1-2 as heavy as those are is pretty rare. And what caught me right away when I listened to the actual whole album after, you know, nitpicking through whatever dude was like, oh, this song. Old Nessie, I love that. And that really showcases Troy's work on bass and how he's able to move around those melodies, around what the guitars are doing, and really create, like you said, that dark, eerie kind of atmosphere that I kind of dig.
I do like the fact that it opens up with the roar of the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
That is how you start an album.
Which is actually an elephant.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to ruin it for you, but...
Well, it's an elephant mixed with like other noises too, I think. Like it's a blend.
It's sound manipulated.
Yeah.
It's an elephant call that's like been slowed down or whatever that Makes it sound like a T-Rex. It's still
get-
badass.
I still get goosebumps every time I
It's
hear
a
it.
dinosaur. Stop it.
I know, I'm that guy in the movie that goes, oh, he could have never done that. Fuck that. So, fuck me, right? I'm sorry.
Let's kick him out. Why is there a hole at the bottom of his popcorn?
I'll tell you why.
And we brought up like kind of the drumming a little bit.
Oh my God.
But man, we're gonna bring it up a lot more because Brand is on point. But in the franticness, like you said, it's just one long fill. It seems like he's able to move the groove along and stuff. And in particular, Burning Man, where that riff, it's basically the main riff is in two kind of parts: a higher part and that lower part. He does a great job of letting just a little bit of air in between that lower part to really accent those those lower notes in there and make the song sound just huge and heavy amongst the chaos that is the drums that he has. And they're still able to bring in like a swing feel to things amongst all that heaviness, like in Workhorse is a good
love
example of
that
that. That song is killer. Number one for me. It's gotta be.
This one is my number 8. And
What the?
it's true.
Easy.
It's a fantastic debut album. It's a little raw on all fronts. From the production, the sounds, even the style is a little bit raw as to what it would become. There's a good mixture on here. There's some heavier shit like Trampled Under Hoof. That's a cool song. But there's a lot of like a little bit more extreme metal in some of these tracks that you're gonna see. And I think the reason that it fell for me is it's a great album, but a lot of people can be heavy, and the way they create songs later on is what really made Mastodon stick in my heart. And the other thing is like, how can you say the first album's the best? They peaked after one? That's crazy to me.
I mean, we said that for Exodus.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
But Bonded by Blood is a fucking album.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I just had to ratchet a little bit. But seriously, no, it's a fantastic album. It's heavy as shit. A lot of people can be heavy, but the melodies and grooves and everything that they would later come on in their songwriting, like I said, is what really latched on in my heart for me. But even so, you can hear this band has a definite, unique sound right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Mastodon sounds like Mastodon right away. They have an identity, and while the identity brings in more things or, evolves over time, the core of Mastodon has always been the same, even with the very first album. So while this is a kick-ass
Massive
album
talent.
filled with heavy riffs and stuff, some of the things that I absolutely adore about Mastodon are not quite on this album yet, and that's just why it's at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I'll still listen to Mother Puncher and want to hit somebody in the mouth. Come on.
Hit someone's mom. You mother puncher.
You mother puncher.
You mother puncher, you.
So I dig that album, man. The whole thing is just like, it's my kind of digs.
And so after that gut puncher of a record, a mother puncher if you will, Mastodon moves 4 years later down the line and releases yet another fucking banger with Leviathan. This record came out on the 31st of August in 2004 on Relapse Records. It was their second full length, recorded and mixed at Robert Lang Studios in Seattle, Washington. Produced once again by Matt Bales, and this is the first time that a record would be a concept record for Mastodon. This was based on Moby Dick.
I am Ahab.
White dick.
The band also states that this album was the water sign. The first 3 Mastodon albums, and then later on down the line, they all had earth signs with them. So the first one was fire with Remission, and then now we're on to water, which makes sense because Moby Dick. This record was my number 2. I love this album. I mean, I love all these albums, but I love this album. I just have to say, Heart's Alive. That's all really I have to say. Brown Daler's drum performance, I didn't really speak much on the first record like I should have, but good God. Brown Daler's drum performance is yet another thing I think that got me into Mastodon, kind of reawakened my love for drumming and heavier music. Just that man, he never fucks up. I've seen Mastodon live countless times now, and that man never fucks up, and he always, no matter what he's playing, crazy as it may be, lands every turnover. It always comes back to the beat. Always. Doesn't matter what he does.
Human metronome.
Yep.
He's easily one of the best drummers at what he does. Period.
Yeah.
In music.
Yeah.
Period.
His single stroke rolls are smooth like butter. Blood and Thunder, of course, this is the first track to feature Neil Fallon from Clutch. If you've seen that video, that video is ridiculous.
I remember watching that video as a kid.
Yep.
Back when MTV played music videos.
Yeah, back when MTV played music.
You don't fucking know
You
what
kids
we're
don't know
talking
about
about.
that shit. But yeah, MTV, believe it or not, used to play music videos
And
instead
not
of
shitty reality TV or whatever fucking garbage it is
Jersey
now.
Shore's meets Teen Mom.
They're fake Italians.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You guys could have been enjoying an awesome Mastodon video that involved drunken clowns chomping on cigars and the band dressed up as Shriners. You fucking kids don't know what you missed out on.
No.
But I mean, YouTube has it, so maybe you do.
You can go back.
Also on this album was Scott Kelly from Neurosis and Aqua Dementia. Scott Kelly would make
Yeah, that was a cool jam.
numerous appearances on Mastodon. I mean, it already, listening to Mastodon when I first heard him, already my first thought was, this kind of sounds like Neurosis, but a lot heavier and faster. This is where Mastodon kind of started to move into the prog section, especially with long songs like Hearts Alive, what was like 11 and a half, 12 minutes
Like
or something.
13, I think.
So this is first where you start to see them showcase not only that punky, metal side of themselves, but also into prog rock. So, yeah, this was number 2 for me, hands down, no questions asked.
Number 2 for me, also, this album cemented my fandom. Like, I was a huge fan of Remission, and from the first second, as soon as I heard that opening riff to Blood and Thunder, it now lives rent-free in my head. I can just say the words, and it's there.
Yep.
But I think this just showed them grow as a band. Like, in terms of, like, musical composition, like, this is still wild, but it feels more focused. And again, you have these more, like, lush sections, like, they're definitely more proggy. You have, like, some semi-cleaner vocals. They're not all, like, the indistinguishable, grunts and growls that are just, really cool, but they actually have some, like, catchy vocal melodies that are going on here. Megalodon, still a staple live. Oh my god, I love the huge transition, like you're just getting, weird and sort of trippy, and then all of a sudden you get this country lick, and then boom, fucking thrash metal all of a sudden. Who the fuck does that?
Megalodon actually is the name of my car. Everybody names their cars. Some people have like Black Betty, some people have Piece of Shit. Mine is Megalodon.
I mean, it's a fucking badass song. It's a badass animal, too.
And actually, honestly, my drum kit, I nicknamed Leviathan. So, might have been a running theme.
Yeah, Iron Tusk was another absolute banger. Like, the little bit more of the sludge metal kind of comes out. But, again, like, you get the prog sort of feeling. Like, it's starting to come to the surface, much like a whale breaching with a bunch of fucking harpoons in it. Probably did not make that noise. It was probably something decidedly more whale-like.
Unless you were there, you can't say for sure.
Right. You don't know.
Unless it was a really small whale. It was a tiny whale.
We don't know.
You know.
There's a lot of variables that need to be determined.
Yeah, you don't know, so fuck you.
It was a small Moby Dick. The water must have been cold. There it is.
Moby Chode.
Moby Joe.
It was a street name, but there's no streets in the ocean, but you know what I mean. Anyway, yeah, number 2. This album's fucking awesome still.
That's my number 3. And Blood and Thunder is, of course, classic. Like you said, the riff is just there. And Megalodon rips, and the structure of it all works really well. Shows you that these guys are going to be beyond what they are at this point when this album comes out. And again, like you said, it cemented my fandom of the band. Seeing that prog side, and I'm not necessarily a huge fan of progressive metal, but the way they incorporate the stuff that I do love into it is fantastic. Mastodon got me into more of that progressive metal stuff. Iron Tusk, though, going back to the heavy stuff, one of my favorite songs of all time.
Great
one of my
riff.
favorite. Yeah, everything about that song is killer. Island has a really cool thrashy kind of vibe to it. But yeah, number 3.
This is my number 4 album. I enjoy Leviathan a lot. Compared to Remission, it is a much more polished and better sounding album, I think. It also injects a lot of the melody and groove that you would start to hear on the rest of the Mastodon albums without taking away any of the heaviness. So to me, this was like 80-20, right? It was about 80% just kick-ass, like 80% kind of Remission, and then about 20% some of this new shit, and some of the more extreme metal was kind of taken out a little bit too. You're starting to hear them kind of coming into what would be Mastodon at peak performance Mastodon. I'm sorry, this is what peak performance looks like. Deal with it. But yeah, it's a fantastic album. It feels very focused. The band, overall, everything just sounds better, and the riffs fucking hit. It's a great album, number 4.
And so we move on to Mastodon's 3rd full-length release. Released on the 12th of September in 2006, Blood Mountain. Now, this is after they had left Relapse. They are now on Reprise Records, which is a flagship of Warner Records. You don't get a whole lot bigger than that, to be honest. Recorded once again at the Robert Lang Studios in Seattle, Washington. This would be their second concept album. And also the Earth element, if we move farther in what the elements were of 4 albums of this discography. Concept album about being stranded on the top of a mountain, lost, cold, hungry, starving, possibly hallucinating. Yeah, I would guess that being lost on a mountain isn't a real good time, but this album is fast-paced in a lot of parts, I think, to showcase, once again, running from bears or animals or hallucinating dinosaurs.
I've done acid in a state park before, so I'm right there with this album.
This is my number 6. That's not really to say anything, because in my mind all the albums were number 1, but you can't do that because this is a ranking. So yeah, I just like this, I think, a little bit less than other albums, although I really did like most of the songs on here. The Wolf is Loose. That's a great way to start this record. Again, it reminds me a lot of Blood and Thunder, except just faster. And then, of course, you have Scott Kelly appearing on this album once again, because what's a Mastodon album without the appearance of Neurosis' Scott Kelly on Crystal Skull? You have Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age appearing on Colony of the Birchmen, and also he's the spoken word in the last track. If you go about 16 minutes into the last track, Pendulous Skin, yeah. He appears by saying, hey guys, Southern Californian here, big fan of the band. I took a bunch of your songs and I recorded my vocals on top of it and then I uploaded them to the internet. Hope you're not mad. Sounds like you guys would be the type of band that would dig this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I love that guy.
It also features Cedric Bixler Zavala from At the Drive-In and the Mars Volta, as well as Isaiah Ike Owens from the Mars Volta on Pendulous Skin. This is where Mastodon would start incorporating more guest stars to their albums. And then, of course, you have the song Sleeping Giant.
Yeah.
This is most notably where Mastodon gets sing-songy for the first time. It sounds really great. This is a hell of a fucking song. It's probably up there with my top 5 favorite Mastodon songs. Usually when I think of melodic and Mastodon in one sentence, I think of Sleeping Giant.
Yeah, the vocals are just mesmerizing. Yep. They really are.
That haunting lead melody
is incredible.
It's just trippy. I love it.
Everything about that is very well constructed, well thought out. Everything sonically works together. It's pleasing. It's just fantastic musicianship.
The song Capillary Crest, and then Circle of Sasquatch. Circle of Sasquatch, I think, has one of my favorite Bron-Daylor drum beats in it ever. That's a really fun fucking drum beat to play. I love this record, but it's at number 6 because others have to be higher. But yeah, I fucking love this album.
I had it at 6 as well. And again, this was one that, towards the middle I figured I might be able to move around some stuff. But generally when it comes down to rankings, once I look at the list, all right, I'm uncomfortable with this. Right. But I'll be more uncomfortable if I move anything. So 6 is where it landed, but I love this album. It is a heavy album. Honestly, production-wise, I think it's even heavier than Leviathan. Mm-hmm. I want to say there was a review I saw, I forget which magazine when it came out, but they simply said, bludgeoning is the new prog. And that is pretty accurate. When you hear songs like Circle of Sasquatch, that is a fucking blitz of a song with a earth-shaking breakdown at the end of it. One of their heaviest moments across their discography. Capillary Crest is a prog fucking blitz. Absolutely insane songwriting. That bridge in the middle with those wild drum patterns, which honestly is just one of my favorite Bron-Daylor moments in general, which he has a lot on this. But, I like all of these songs, except for towards the end. Towards the end, it kind of loses me with Siberian Divide and Pendulous Skin. Those songs kind of just get a little too trippy and weird. They're still good, but I think a lot of the stuff before that, This Mortal Soil, I absolutely love the vocal melodies on there. The clean vocals definitely, still need a little bit of work. They're not as tuneful as they would get later on in their career, but it was cool to hear them implemented with really heavy songs.
To have them try something of that scale and nail it pretty well. Obviously, it's not as great as it would become, but to try something like that and make it sound as good as they did early on, it was, again, another precursor to, okay, fuck, these guys can sing, too.
And Bron was kind of used minimally on here, so essentially it was a lot of, Brent Hines and Troy just going back and forth, but they had unique voices. And that would become kind of a cool appeal of this band, where you have 3 separate voices on here that are very distinct and carry like a different tune to them. I think this album is absolutely awesome, but again, it's up against a lot of competition. But I mean, it's a fantastic fucking release, and unfortunately, it just followed something that I hold a little bit more closely in terms of their songwriting and albums. But yeah, number 6, it's a fucking killer album.
I have Blood Mountain at number 2. I think this is a mini masterpiece in my eyes that makes way for a most definite masterpiece to follow. This is basically, like we said, like an acid trip of fucking amazing riffs, excellent melodies, and once again, the song Sleeping Giant is... I just watched an acoustic version of them doing it. Ooh. I mean, it sounds incredible. What's cool about the acoustic version is you can hear all the very cool dissonant chords that Mastodon likes to use with the acoustic really shining through, and that's something that's a huge staple of their sound. I think this album really sets the stage for everything else that's about to come in this discography, and from start to finish, this album mesmerizes me, so this is my number 2 for sure.
And I'm nestled right in between at number 4. And it was originally one of the albums that I thought would be kind of on the lower side of things, but as I listened to it again and appreciated, so when it came out, it was kind of like, oh, they're moving more, I don't know, I wouldn't say like radio friendly, but like more accessible, I guess. And like hardcore dude in me at that point was kind of opposed to that. But then hearing so much of that done just horribly throughout the years, and then coming back to this and really listening to it, it's like, man, it creeped up a lot. But honestly, like these guys, I'm sure 4, 5, and 6 could just be kind of swapped around. I mean, really, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's a transitional album.
Yeah. I didn't care for like Blade Catcher. I understand the theme of it and stuff, but it's nonsense.
They still play it live, and it's awesome.
But Sleeping Giant, of course, Colony of Birchmen, because I'm a huge fan of Josh Homme and everything that dude does. His voice fits like so well with everything else going on in those guys. It's an awesome collaboration to have on an album. Crystal Skull is a cool verse jam to it. I mean, there's just riffs like Shredlord said. It's just a lot of riffs and good melodies, good vocals, and
they pushed the songwriting a lot.
Yeah.
The songwriting really became, I mean, it's not like it wasn't sophisticated before, but the level of sophistication in the songwriting took a big step forward in my eyes.
I would even say the themes too, like, you know, before they had Moby Dick to go on, this one they kind of just created their own wild story and wild music to go with it. Like,
and the album cover's sick.
Yeah, it is. I have no idea what happened to the main character during that fucking insane breakdown on Crystal Skull, but it wasn't good.
So here we are sitting in 2006, and then in 2007, Brent Hines gets into an altercation with Chavo from System of a Down. Apparently, it would come out that he was inebriated, and
you don't say.
Led to a head injury, which led to an interesting time for Mastodon, because during the next couple of years when they would tour, they actually toured without Brent. I saw Mastodon as a 3-piece. They were headlining with Between the Buried and Me and Baroness. But yeah, I saw him as a 3-piece, and I was like, what the fuck happened to Brent? And then it came out that, he is recovering from an injury, so...
A serious brain injury.
A serious brain injury, which he talks about in the next album. So, moving on in Mastodon's career, released on the 24th of March in 2009, Crack the Skye. Once again released on Reprise Records, produced by Brendan O'Brien, who has worked with many artists. I won't even list them all, but again, another concept album for these guys. It's based on a guy who was a paraplegic who learned how to astral travel, and that's referenced all throughout this record. This is the first album to fully feature Bron Daler as the third vocalist of Mastodon. Bron sings quite a lot in this album, and he is a fuck of a vocalist, on top of being an amazing drummer. I saw Crack the Skye. I saw that tour 3 times, I think. And just amazing. The way that man sings while playing drums is fucking disgusting. I don't, another fucking Phil Collins.
I was just gonna say, like, you think of other guys that do that, it's Phil Collins. That's it, and Bron.
I saw them on their co-headlining tour with Death Clock, and they did all of Crack the Skye, and legit blown away.
Yep. I saw all of Crack the Skye when they were on tour with Kalisa and Intronaut.
Man.
Yep. And
I'm jealous.
And that's when they had when they brought in the keyboard player and they had the giant screen behind them that was playing all the music videos for fucking Crack the Skye. And it was fucking awesome. I loved it. This is my number one. This is prog metal, I think, at its finest. Just every song from start to finish, dude. Oblivion is the first time where you really hear Bronze sing, and again, it's amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Songs like The Czar, dude. The Czar is a 10-minute fucking
Escape,
masterpiece,
Martyr.
dude. The Last Baron, I've always wanted to cover The Last Baron. Of course, you have songs like Crack the Skye, which are an homage to Bron Daylor's sister, who committed suicide at 14. And, while that's a pretty big bummer, our condolences, of course. Crack the Skye, I think, is one of my most favorite songs on this album. Yeah, I won't gush about this album. I'm just gonna let that fucking go, dude, because it's number one for me.
Gush away, sir.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm about to fangirl out.
We're all gonna.
This album changed my life. Musically, as a guitar player, as a music listener, as a musician. This was a sound I hadn't heard before, besides with these guys, but it instantly connected with me. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to this album. I still listen to this album.
Yep.
I had a little... Oh God, what was it? I had an Acura Integra special edition.
Dude, I remember that car.
Me and this guy right here have driven very fast to that album many a times.
Very stoned.
Very fast, just cruising around the city listening to that album.
Yep.
Safety
For maybe a
third.
good year and a half, 2 years straight.
That was a stick
nonstop.
shift, wasn't it?
Yep, it
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Oh, I beat the hell out of that.
Yeah,
I love
you
that
did.
fucking car. I don't think that Bill Kelleher and Brent Hinds get enough credit as guitar players and songwriters. Bill especially. I think Brent, because he does a lot of the leads, gets some of the attention. But Bill Kelleher is a fucking genius.
Riff
when
master.
Riff master.
Yep.
And so is Brent. To me, they're just as
awesome.
fucking iconic as
They're fucking
KK
awesome.
and Glenn or
Yeah,
Dave and
I
Addy.
agree
Like
100%.
They are easily, in my eyes, one of the most underrated guitar duo in metal rock music.
Yeah.
The way they implement changes, the way they do syncopations with the drums and the bass, the way they use very dissonant but beautiful chords that set up these really great melodies and
my
long
God.
flowing prog sections.
They're like constantly aware of everything going around and then fit in these awesome melody pockets and just these heaviness.
Yeah. And on top of it, they're still delivering crushing
We could do a fucking
riffs.
2 hours of me and you going back
Dude.
and forth.
And
like,
look,
you know.
absolutely we
Look,
could.
I love
Yeah.
Crack the Skye so much that it makes me want to stop this ranking so we can all jam it, because I fucking love that album.
I'm gonna listen to it on the way home now. Fuck it.
Oh man.
I also have this at number one. Bit of a theme here. Honestly, I would say this is the prog epic that I don't think many people saw coming.
No.
The trajectory of this band, it felt like I wouldn't say plateaued between Leviathan and Blood Mountain, but it's like, all right, we kind of know what to expect from them. And I remember hearing Oblivion because it got leaked early.
Yep.
And just going, what?
Right?
I didn't know who was singing at first. I was like,
Yep.
oh no, that's Bron. I was like, holy shit, he can do that too?
While playing drums.
And I will say that his drum performance is more restrained, but I think it's more tasteful in here.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, the fact that he's
100%.
doing the vocals on here, it's amazing. It adds a whole other level. This is spacey, atmospheric. The melodies are crisp. Ghost of Corellia is up there with one of my favorite fucking songs. And this is where Troy really started to do like his big bellowing vocals. And it was like, dude, that sounds so fucking epic. But the big standouts, The Last Baron and The Czar being the long prog epics. The Last Baron in particular, like that whole crazy bridge,
Yep.
like all of a sudden they just take a page out of like classic Yes in there. You even have like Hammond organ sprinkled in. It's just like some of the best songwriting I think I heard. Well, at least all of 2009. This probably would have been my favorite album. of
Easily the best
2009.
album of 2009.
Yeah,
Fight me
yeah,
if you
yeah,
disagree.
yeah.
It's okay.
And it even came out as an instrumental, which I also have.
Yep. I remember when
dude,
John got the instrumental.
Yep.
I was like,
Yep.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. We all rocked out to the instrumental.
because as musicians, we want to hear, we
The
love
music,
the vocals,
right,
but
right.
it allows
Yeah.
you to hear everything a little bit differently and more precisely.
And while the vocals are killer on this record, dude, the music is just
Fantastic.
The committing to all clean vocals on here, because I mean you have like some harsher bellows and like some kind of growls, but most of this is
they're
all
not.
clean singing. And again, those unique harmonies you find between the three distinct singers, like they have such a unique sound. Like you found something fucking special here. and pushing the songwriting in a completely different, direction. Like, yeah, it may have lost a little bit of heaviness, but where it lost that, it gained like some of the best songwriting I think they've ever done, because this is my fucking number one.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing album. Like, this is the GOAT of Mastodon albums.
Correct.
Flat out. If they surpass this mark, I'll be surprised, because this is so fucking lofty. But yeah, take it away, Miller.
This is my number 2, and I know I've done it before, like flipping things 1 and 2. 1, Remission is always going to be, because it's like, this is one of the few bands I got into like immediately. Like, I heard them week after the album came out. Like, it was that like Tuesday random day after the Friday release, and so that's why that album will live with me as number 1. But this Crack the Skye, like you guys said, this is an epic album from start to finish. As I mentioned all the tunes already, but Oblivion and Divinations is, for me, the return of their 1-2 punches in their albums, because it kind of lacked there even in the last one. This is like a return of that, just 1-2 punch right in the face, get your album going thing, and they don't lose you during this at all. It moves into this melodic thing, and it really advances their sound, but I don't think they lose their heaviness to their grit.
Album.
They just get dark and eerie and spacey, and it's all fantastic stuff and written really, really well. And Troy, I don't hear him come up in conversations of bass players and stuff.
He's amazing.
Yes.
The way he writes his melodies to work with, kind of playing off of what the vocals have done or will do, or what the drums have done or will do. He kind of floats in between these spaces sometimes, and he fits everything in there melodically, and it's just perfect writing. And we, again, gush about every single one of these dudes are talented.
Troy is a bass-wielding doom wizard.
Well, and what's interesting about his bass playing is, I've read in interviews where Bron Daler says that he never... You know how most drummers play along with the bass player? Well, he was always around guitar players, so he always played his drum beats around guitarists. So Troy Sanders, in that aspect, has kind of always had this freedom to run with what he does and the melody, and make his playing a little bit more unique, because he's not worried about having a drummer following, because the drummer's paying attention to the guitarist.
You know who else does that? Geezer fucking Butler.
Well,
I mean, that's not a bad comparison.
no.
Just saying.
They're both
Not
doom
at all.
wizards.
And of course, the title track, Crack the Skye, killer, super heavy, and shows that they still got the heaviness to them. You guys mentioned the Czar, Escape, Martyr, Spiral. It's super epic, and it really kind of showcases their ability to write these huge, big, epic songs and maintain your attention throughout the song. You're listening to almost 11-minute song, and it really doesn't seem like it. It moves along in such a way and a flow that keeps you entertained and engaged throughout the whole thing.
And that is the beauty
this
of
is-
prog.
That,
So, yeah.
and, as much as I don't like Chavo hurting on my boy Brent, I mean, the reason that he wrote a lot of this album was when he was sitting at home recovering from this head injury.
Yeah.
Just sitting around, plucking around, and my boy struck gold.
Yes, he did. And so then we move on only 2 years, which usually Mastodon is good to release records every 3 years. Came out on the 12th of September in 2011, The Hunter, also on Reprise Records. Produced by Mike Elizondo, who was a protege actually of Dr. Dre. He worked with Eminem and Fiona Apple and a bunch of bands that actually aren't metal, that have really nothing to do with Mastodon sound or whatever, but he releases The Hunter. This released as number 10, actually, on the Billboard Top 200. Album was actually called The Hunter in homage to Brent's brother, who was killed in a hunting accident during the recording of the album. Once again, our condolences.
Dude, that guy has had some bad
Yeah, he
tough
has.
times.
There's a lot of tragedy associated with this band, and especially in like their themes and everything. Again, it resurfaces, unfortunately, a lot, but honestly, it seems like it inspires a lot of great work.
Well, I would call this record not as heavy and not as proggy as records before it. It still is a great record. I had this at my number 7. This is the first record in quite some time that was not a concept album. This was just, they wrote a bunch of songs and they were like, okay, here we are. Again, although not my most favorite of the albums, has some fucking killer songs in it. Right off the bat, I would just mention Stargasm.
Great song.
Stargasm is a great song. Actually, Shred and I covered Stargasm in a band we had a couple years ago. I actually did a pretty damn good job, I think, of that
A
cover.
lot of fun playing.
Yep. Songs like All the Heavy Lifting, even the title track, The Hunter.
Curl of the Burl, man.
Yep, Curl of the Burl, The Sparrow. Again, this band writes killer songs through and through. Regardless of what you have to say about any of these records, they're all just killer songs. While it wasn't as heavy, it's still melodic in here. It just, to me, I guess this record fell a little bit. It just didn't stand out with the rest of the records, but still great songs. I mean, I jammed this over and over and over again, just as I have every Mastodon record. Every Mastodon record ever I've listened to over and over and over again. So, yeah, number 7 for me.
Also, number 7 for me. You can sense that this isn't a concept album because it does kind of feel like a collection of songs. And you can kind of sense that the production is a little bit different, too. Like, it doesn't necessarily sound like, the previous albums in terms of, like, that slightly more organic sound. Like, this sounds like, a modern rock album's production.
It's a little more fuzzy.
Yeah, I mean, the drums sound different. Like, that was something like right away I noticed. Like, it just sounds like a more polished, like, straightforward album. And it is kind of like that way musically. Like, this does kind of feel like a collection of songs. And to a degree, I would say they were shooting for singles here. And rightfully so. I mean, they had some good singles. Like, Black Tongue, the opening track, massive fucking riffs. It still retains the heaviness. But, it has, like, a more restrained songwriting style. Like, all right, let's make sure these hooks have time to breathe before we kind of go nutty. Bedazzled Fingernails.
Great song.
I absolutely love that song. The fan video that the dude did that stop motion video.
Oh, yeah.
That is the coolest shit ever.
Yep.
One of the best fan worship things I think I've ever seen for a band. Drybone Valley, I don't know why that wasn't a huge single.
I agree.
It is such a catchy song. Braun completely fucking owns on vocals on there. Some of the best clean vocals they had done to this point, I think. But overall, like, the album doesn't gel for me as well as others. Like, I love a lot of individual songs in there. Like, Spectral Light's fucking awesome. That was
Got
nice.
Scott Kelly
Yeah.
again. Yep.
Another heavy fucking bruiser from him, too. But overall, like, the flow of this album, it just doesn't kind of move like the other albums. Like, it does feel like, all right, these are a collection of songs. Some of these are definitely more geared for mass appeal. And there's really nothing wrong with that because we're still writing in our style and doing it really well. But yeah, this one's just a really fucking good album. Like, but I had to rank it, and yeah, it kind of fell a little bit, but it's still fucking great. So yeah, back to this ranking being an absolute pain on the dick.
I had it at 8. And I think it's, again, it just didn't feel like, maybe because it wasn't a concept, it was, again, a collection of songs, and even though Black Tongue is cool, it's not as strong as an opener as they had with the last album. So, Curl the Burl is, again, a cool song, but it's
just
a
the way of
little
the
safe.
world.
I killed a man because he killed my gold, man.
I put my hands around his throat.
That's how you have to do it. That's a cool music video, too, by the way.
Yes, it is.
But with, like, Curl the Burl, Dry Bone, they kind of felt a little safe, and if you want to say, like, singly, like what you mentioned, too. And even like Dry Bone it's cool, catchy tune. It's very Alice in Chains kind of vibe to it a little bit there, and it was just safe. It was a safe album. It seemed like.
In like the order of the albums, it feels kind of going from like this big lavish prog epic where so many chances were taken to this album where like not as many gambles were taken and you went for like the singles. Like this is going from like early Genesis to like Invisible Touch. Definitely two different schools of thought, but still executed really fucking well.
Like Spectral Light that's
a beast.
Awesome.
Dude, the extra track Deathbound that was on the expanded edition.
Deluxe edition.
Monster fucking song.
Yeah. Again, this is a good album. Like I'm just trying to nitpick and I have to rank.
Yep.
I have this album at number 6. I remember when it first came out, I did listen to it a lot, and I do love this album. I think the thing that brought it down to 6 was there's a couple really strong songs on this album, and then the rest is good, but it doesn't grab me as much. I think after Crack the Skye, they probably realized that what's the point of trying to you're not going to outdo Crack the Skye, right? So in order of setting this bar, instead of setting this bar so incredibly high, I just feel like they went towards a different direction, with this producer who's kind of a little bit out of their element. And yeah, they focused, I wouldn't say it's a commercial grab as much as I would say they just really focused on more of the melody and the groove and shorter songs, something they really haven't done too much. So,
True.
Instead of feeling commercial, I just feel like it was a band in transition because they really couldn't push that Crack the Skye sound any further. So I think they just kind of explored other parts of their sound more on this
Reeled
album.
it back
That's
in.
a good way to put it.
That's just kind of how I,
Reeled it back in and then pushed something different out.
Yeah.
Get a bunch of songs together and like kind of get what you all vibe on.
Yeah.
You know, okay, we kind of vibe on these songs, and then keep going. Because
let's be honest, one of the things we all love about Mastodon is the melody, the groove, and just how fucking awesome some of their soundscapes are. And I think they really focused on that. Even though it didn't produce some of the more stronger Mastodon songs compared to the rest of the discography, it's still a fucking great album.
I mean, I think they kind of just proved, like, yeah, we can write some more straightforward rocker songs and still be us. Like, it's still 100%
They
them.
never lose their identity.
No.
They're
No.
always Mastodon no matter what they do.
Yep. So then we move on 3 more years back to the 3-year releases because it's Mastodon. Mastodon releases Once More Around the Sun on the 24th of June 2014. I kind of already know these dates by heart because I've bought every single Mastodon record on the day it comes out because how can you not? It's Mastodon. This time the record was produced by Nick Raskulinich. I'm sorry if I fucked up your name.
That's the best we could figure out together.
I'm really sorry.
Awful lot of consonants in it.
Yep, there are. There's a lot going on. Sorry, brother. Recorded in Franklin, Tennessee at the Rock Falcon Studios. I remember reading that after the band had produced so many albums out on the West Coast, they wanted to come further inland and see what happens if they recorded an album closer to where they're from. This was stated to be a continuation of The Hunter. Features Scott Kelly, once again from Neurosis, on Diamond in the Witch House, a badass song.
Great song.
Valiant from Valiant Thor, and Isaiah Ike Owens on Asleep in the Deep. Also features The Coat Hangers, which is an all-female punk band from Atlanta. I'd never actually...
I wonder if that's an abortion reference.
No, they like hanging up clothes. That's
I don't
ridiculous.
know. Right? I have a
yes.
bunch of coat hangers with which I hang up clothes on. Nothing else, because that would be not...
crazy.
Yeah. Well, the record itself is not a concept album. It is loosely based on what it would be like to know you're about to die and have one more year left to live. So, that's interesting. I don't know what I would do in the last year. I would definitely...
Beat off a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot of beating off.
that's a daily thing at least, right?
I would eat everything gluttonous. Just walk around cranking it. There'd be a permanent cloud around me like fucking Pigpen from...
I'm gonna need a year's supply of mescaline. And I'll kind of go from there. If you see me in the news, there's probably a really good story or a really bad story associated with it. But yeah, year's supply of mescaline, that ought to do it.
So Once More Around the Sun. This record is my number 8. You gotta rank. And I hated this ranking.
Yes.
Because I once again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm sure I'll say it before we're done. I love Mastodon. There were just things that came above it.
That's what she said.
So, nice. This album, I think, would definitely, again, shows more of their melodic thing. It's definitely something Mastodon's moving into at this point. Ever since Crack the Skye, you can pretty much always count on any Mastodon record having some really great songs with some really killer vocal harmonies in them, some really killer melodies. First of all, the song The Mother Lode. Have you guys watched that video?
It's a great video.
It is.
It's an even better song.
Yes,
that
even
song
better
is
song.
killer.
One of the
Mother
greatest
Lode.
hooks they've ever
Dude,
written.
High Road, I think, is such a catchy,
that fucking riff.
wonderful song, dude. And that fucking riff, dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
like it's that progression right there. It's like, oh, you just got stankier.
Then the dig at the end.
Yep, heavier than they've been in quite some time. Chimes at Midnight, again,
Love
that riff, too, is fucking nasty.
Yeah, Chimes at Midnight is one of my favorites. And that is such a fucking, really super intense feeling to that song. I dig the vibe of that too.
Dark.
Yeah, super
Dude,
dark.
Ember City, again, another one of my favorite Mastodon songs. Bron Taylor does such a good job
Yeah,
in
the
Ember
singing,
City,
man.
dude.
The choruses
Yep.
on that. Bron is just showcasing a very melodic, excellent voice.
I mean, what do I say to you?
Yeah.
And if you're slipping away, man, it is what it is.
What do I say to you? I liked this album. Again, I liked them all, but this just fell a little bit further for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to name all the songs because I could, but I'm not going to.
Mine's also this one's last place, but again, I like all these albums. I think this is a well done album. It definitely is a musical continuation from The Hunter. The songs feel, again, more straightforward, more simplified. I like the production better on this than I do on the Hunter. It feels a little bit more like crisp and a little bit more organic.
More rock.
It is kind of like their rock album. Like for the most part, like a lot of the heaviness, like it's definitely still there. Of course, that giant fucking riff on the high road. I mean, I think Diamond in the Witch House is kind of a dark and haunting song. But a lot of this is a little bit more like kind of bouncy and playful. Like the songs are a little bit more up tempo. There's a little bit more pep to them, and I think for the most part they're really good. But there is one song on here that I still cannot get into, and it is "Asleep in the Deep." That chorus isn't good. I don't like that chorus at all. Like that weird harmonizing-ish, whatever it is between Brent and Valiant. Like it just sounds like two drunk homeless men bellowing inside of a train car, like, pass me the beans.
Maybe
Did they have a soup kitchen while they were there?
I don't know. That's a big soup kitchen. We're talking about a railway car, all right?
Good soup.
Dirty Mike and the boys, they get down anywhere, man. Not just in a Prius.
I mean, you got way more room in this train car than a Prius. This is like at least 4 Prius sizes, bare minimum. But yeah, like that was the first time I was like, man, this song just kind of misses for me. Like I think everything leading up to it is fine, but you know, the chorus, that's supposed to be like the big hook, and Jesus Christ, they can fucking do a giant chorus, and you know, if they need to be even bigger, they just tap Braun on the shoulder and say, hey, you got this one? It's like, piece of cake.
Right.
I think this one kind of has a bit of filler on it, like kind of overall, like, you know, Aunt Lisa and Halloween, they're good songs, but, you know, did they necessarily need to be on here? Like, could this have been just a shorter, more succinct album with stronger songs? Maybe. But overall, I like most of the songs in here. So this is still a really good album. It's just not as good as all the other ones I liked, in my opinion.
Yep, and I'm with you guys too. It's 7 for me, and you know, songs like the Aunt Lisa and Halloween, they're just not as strong. But like I said, Chimes at Midnight is one of the fucking coolest songs I've heard.
I'm surprised nobody's mentioned the title track.
And
that's a great song.
Yeah, Once More Around song.
I mean,
That chorus is fun.
I like that chorus.
Yeah, that chorus is cool. Motherload, it's obviously like their radio kind of hit. Super solid, got a great flow, vibe to it. It's fucking
Everything
killer.
worked out fine.
Yeah, this album's a good album, but
Apparently it's a good song to shake your ass to. So I hear.
I mean, the video proved it. Let's be honest.
I mean, that's, yeah.
If you got that much real estate back there, then shake it.
Anyway, I'm going to be the odd man out here. This is actually my number 3 favorite Mastodon album. I fucking love this album. I remember right before this album came out, by then I was fucking all about, I was lost in the sauce, man. I was a Mastodon fanatic. And they would release these studio update videos. And me and this guy used to watch them at my old house on the big screen TV where the computer was hooked up to. And I remember the one update, I don't remember which one it was in order, but it was showing Braun playing the drums and singing the chorus to the Motherload. And I about shot my Motherload. It was fucking awesome. And from that moment on, I could not wait to get my hands on that album. And, you know, without naming every fucking song on the album like we already did, I feel like even though this album wasn't as cohesive as some of the other ones, I absolutely adore 90% of these songs. And yeah, I love this album. So it is what it is. You guys may not agree, but I think it's fucking fantastic.
We did see him on the
we saw him on the
tour
tour
with
too.
Gojira. That was a badass show.
So with Clutch.
that was super killer. I saw him with Gojira.
Yep.
I didn't go to the Clutch one.
So we move on another 3 years, and Mastodon releases yet another beauty, Emperor of Sand, released on the 31st of March of 2017. I bought it again on the day it came out.
Same.
Yep. And this is the last and the final of the elements. This is the air element. Released once again on Reprise Records, this time recorded in Kennesaw, Georgia, so really close to home for these guys. At the Quarry Recording Studio, mixed at Henson Recording Studios in LA, produced once again by Brennan O'Brien, again featuring Scott Kelly on Scorpion Breath, and Kevin Sharp of Brutal Truth on Andromeda. Brutal Truth seems kind of a far stretch for Mastodon, but I get it.
Not really, because Bill did a project with Kevin Sharp called Primate, and it's an awesome crust punk grind band that's
I have heard that
fucking
band.
awesome.
You're
That's
right.
the band that has the album with the half gorilla, half man face?
No, that's actually Brutal Truth.
Brutal Truth. Okay.
But actually, Primate does have like a black and white chimpanzee.
Okay.
Like, it's an awesome fucking album.
Again, this is a concept album about a desert wanderer that has been handed a death sentence. And at the end, the wanderer dies and is simultaneously saved. And then the band would later state, of course, that this is about going through cancer. Once
Bill's
again,
life.
many things have plagued this band. And,
Bill, you're the fucking man.
Sultan's Curse on this album won a Grammy in 2018. And this album actually released at number 7 out of the top 200 on the Billboard charts, which beat out Crack the Skye. So at the time of this was Mastodon's really kick into...
Yeah, it's just because it was more accessible than Crack the Skye.
Yep.
Yeah.
This album is my number 4. To be honest, all these songs, all of them, dude, some of the greatest like sing-songy choruses that Mastodon has ever had, in my opinion, are on this record.
Yeah.
Of course, Steam Breather, that song is amazing, dude. Fucking Roots Remain, Word to the Wise.
I love that chorus.
Dude, these choruses on here, this is where I think Mastodon has hit their peak as far as writing a melodic, catchy chorus. I mean, I jammed this record over and over and over and over again, and while it's no Crack the Skye, this is definitely a pretty top-notch album as far as both musically and vocally. I think this is like the peak of that. Scott Kelly appearing on Scorpion Breath, and Mike Keneally, who was Zappa's...
Mike Keneally,
who was Zappa's guitar player at
Frank
one point.
Zappa's guitar player. Yep. He also was the touring guitar player of Death Clock, and strangely enough, I have actually met Mike Keneally in person. I was a guitar instructor for many years back in the day, and at one of the music stores I taught, we sold Taylor guitars. And Mike Keneally and Brian Keller of the Aristocrats and the Steve Vai Band and everything, they did a Taylor clinic at the music store I was working at. So I actually got to hang out with those guys.
Nice. That's sweet.
And they are super excellent dudes. Super excellent dudes. Mike Keneally is a fantastic guitar player. Very quirky, but very cool.
Yeah, actually, I think this CD is actually still in my car CD player. I don't play CDs much anymore, although I have a bunch of them and I don't play them much anymore. But every now and again when I forget my phone and I want to jam something in the car, this album is in my car CD player right now.
So your standby.
So, it is.
Your standby album.
It is. I fucking love this record.
Yeah, man. This album is my number 5. I think what's cool about this album is it continues those strong melodic themes and really cool proggy kind of grooves and strong vocals, choruses, yada, yada, yada. But I think on tracks like Roots Remain, Clandestiny, and Jaguar God, you get some of the old school kind of heaviness that you really haven't heard since like the Leviathan kind of early era, which I thought was a nice touch to bring back in. Also, when you learn about what the album's about, I think that helps you kind of dig into the music a little bit better and connect with it a little bit better. There's great songs all over here. And, of course, the big single is frickin' Show Yourself, and I love that song. And the Grim Reaper getting drunk and everything in the video. First of all, Mastodon makes great videos.
Yes,
Let's just put that out there. That's one of my favorite videos because it basically looks like Death from Bill and Ted is just going on a wild-ass adventure, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I have it at 5, right kind of in the middle. And again, it's a killer album. They're maintaining their melodic kind of hooks to everything, but then, like you said, Roots Remain, Clandestiny, those songs are just heavy. Old school heavy. Like, obviously I'm gonna gravitate toward those songs in it, but Precious Stones is awesome. Steam Breather, of course, the hit Show Yourself, really catchy, and just proves once again that they're able to write just a hit song and it not be like for the metalheads or like the sellout kind of, oh, they're selling out. Like, it kind of is in that vein of stuff, but it's just so good that we're just like, oh, it's Mastodon. They're just
right.
Yeah, it's so good at doing it. And you hear so much of that stuff done poorly that they're just the kings of it at this point.
Yeah, it's like, modern rock metal, but with like heart and thought into it.
A modern Rush.
Yeah, actually, that's not, like, the whole '80s Rush period is like, I don't know, they're kind of heavy on the synthesizers. Like, so what? They're good.
Yeah, I still think of Mastodon as kind of like a Rush, like a heavy Rush.
I mean, that's definitely an influence. I also had this at number 5 too. I think this is honestly kind of that perfect balance between what they were doing on Once More Around the Sun and The Hunter and sort of the more proggy lavishness that's on Crack the Skye. Like, they kind of condensed the progginess down, put it in like a more digestible form, and came up with these really fucking catchy songs. The production's kind of more back to being organic too. Like it's just this big, thick sort of sound. The guitar work in here is absolutely awesome. I think Brent Hines really starts like coming up with some very well crafted solos on here, like ones that kind of fit the mood and the themes on here too. It's kind of interesting. But Steam Breather is an absolute fucking golden song. Every single bit of it, it's so well constructed. Jaguar God is a giant epic closer. Ancient Kingdom is, I think, an underrated one on here, but World of the Wise might be one of the best choruses they've ever written. That is just an instant epic hook. This is pretty much them taking that, more, again, like radio, I guess you could call it radio formula, but throwing some, like, just extra stuff to it, like, kind of just show up any other fucking band that's trying to shoot for the radio. Like, I don't know, we went over the last Disturbed album. It sounded like a fucking Disturbed album. This actually, has heart to it. There's thought to it. There's, cool themes to it. It isn't just mana, chug, riff, anything, You can be accessible and be adventurous in the songwriting, and Mastodon knows how to fucking do that.
Yep.
Every time,
without fail. And then we come to the end for now for Mastodon, because I'm sure they're not done yet, but this is the last record on the train. Hushed and Grim, released on October 21st, 2021. We might have saw this record sooner, but of course we went through the bullshit pandemic, which fucked everything for everybody. They're still on Reprise Records at this moment, recorded in Atlanta at West End Studios, so again, really close to home for these guys. Produced by David Bottrill, who of course worked on Tool, Dream Theater, King Crimson. I could go on. His list is fucking extensive. It guests Kim Thale.
Soundgarden, baby.
From Soundgarden. Yep. On Had It All. And then you get Troy's mom, Judy Sanders, who appears playing the French horn.
Judy!
I don't remember on what song, though.
Give it up for Judy!
It's not listed, so good fucking job, Judy, on French horn. Many others, including Dave Witt of
Municipal Waste,
and a cataclysm of other fucking awesome bands. This is the longest release that Mastodon has ever had.
First double disc.
Although they released it as a double disc, in total this record clocks in at 86 minutes. This record is depressive yet incredibly beautiful. They're back to some heavy and probably some of the most reserved, laid back that the band has ever been too. While this is not a concept either, you can just hear the emotion released in all the crazy things that this band went through in that 4-year time period. I had this at number 5. I haven't had enough time with this record yet. I'll be honest with you. I haven't had as much time as I would like to have with this record to really, pull it any higher than it was. So it kind of sits mid-range for me right now. There are some incredible songs on here. The opening of Pain with an Anchor, that gigantic fucking drum fill. Obviously, Mastodon has been a band at this point for 20 years. They have not lost anything at all. Nothing has fallen by the wayside. These guys still write incredible fucking songs. They're incredibly talented fucking musicians. The Crux Cyclone piece, More Than I Could Chew, is a beast of a fucking song.
That end of the song,
my God.
It rips your heart out.
It really does. I will say Pushing the Tides is heavier than they've been in quite some time. But yeah, I need more time with this album to really still properly give it a go. Although I gave it 5 stars when it came out. It's fucking Mastodon. It's a beautiful...
Oh yeah.
It's Mastodon. It's Mastodon. Mastodon are fucking musical geniuses. But yeah, I'll just stop gushing more about Mastodon and let you guys take over.
I have to agree with John. I think the reason this is number 7 on my list is just I haven't had enough time with it. It's literally maybe 1 year old, just over a year old. I loved it when we reviewed it, and I still like it a lot. This album, basically, there's not too many bangers on this one, but they really explored their great songwriting, and they really explored the melodies and hooks. Obviously, coming from a depressive state of inspiration, that's probably why it leaned this way. And also, I think they were probably just pent up during the pandemic and just had a lot of great material that they were able to just sit around at home and write. And I think I recall hearing the story about how they just had so many great ideas that they had to just stop and say, all right, that's it, It's a fantastic album nonetheless. But once again, it's only been out for about a year, so I haven't cycled it as many times as I cycled the others.
And I'm gonna plead that too with my number 6. And two, it's like a little more depressive than I like. This is full of really killer tunes and unique ones too, like The Beast. Like I love that song. It's just what a really cool, chill kind of vibe to it. And I appreciate the kind of flow that this album has as a whole piece. And like you said, there's not too many ones you can pull out or yank out, but as a whole, it's fantastic. But you know, it's sitting in the ranking. It doesn't come as close to my attention as Crack the Skye and some of the other ones, which is in the middle. And who knows? The more I listen to it, the more I like it. So it's going to be one of those that I'm going to spend some more time with. But yeah, it just kind of falls in the middle because of those reasons.
I had this at number 3. This was my album of the year last year. I gave it a 5-star ranking. I don't think I've given anything a 5-star ranking this year. No, I give it 4.5.
I'll give it 5.
Ooh.
This album is different, not only because it's a double disc and it's so long. This one is almost entirely about their death of their manager, who was a longtime friend.
Nick Jon.
Yep. This album was kind of special because, like, there was like an emotional connectivity that I got with this, because it literally runs like the stages of grief. You have, you know, pretty much that initial wave of just sadness and agony, and then sort of, you know, reflecting on it, eventually accepting it. Like, it's all there, and it all kind of flows like that. These songs are like just straight from the heart, and I think, you know, that whole depressive vibe on here, like it is a lot of somber reflection, but I think it came out in just some very well crafted songs. I think they're slightly proggier on here. Like, there are more long songs with more like lavish arrangements. Like, of course, More Than I Can Chew.
Time signature changes.
Oh yeah,
They do that a
Peace
lot
and
more.
Tranquility, I think, is an absolutely amazing
That's
song.
awesome.
Just these cool, bouncy fucking riffs back and forth, and you know, like starting off very heavy and then kind of getting into these like really kind of fun off-time grooves. The vocals on here are absolutely amazing. This was mostly done by Troy and Braun in terms of the vocals. Like, I think Brent is only on a couple of tracks in terms of, you know, vocals, but his guitar work in here I think is some of the best. Like, his lead work, all of it came from the heart on this, and there's like just this giant emotional sort of feel for this. I don't know, like, there was something about this one, like, it's not the heaviest album they've done by far, but in terms of like the most like directly themed album, because you have a lot of like lavish concepts and such, this one is just straight from the heart, and I love it. Over the course of 2 discs too, I ended up liking pretty much every fucking track on here. There are so many damn good songs. The Crux Dagger, I mean, there are lines in there, like the lines you carve remain. You know, it's just, again, like such an emotional, dark journey of an album, and I don't know, I think it may have, you know, irked some longtime listeners that are still probably like, well, they're going to get back to Remission and, you know,
Fuck
Leviathan.
off.
Right.
They're not.
Right.
They're not. They've moved past that. They're doing different things. They're still doing cool fucking Mastodon things.
Yes.
You know, I think that it's just that ship has fucking sailed. Let it go. Embrace what they're doing now, because I think they're doing some incredible stuff here, and I look forward to whatever follows this.
Yeah, Mastodon can do no wrong in my eyes.
Agreed. So far they have.
And I hope for them, like, they get into a really good space where they start doing maybe, like, not necessarily that super dark heavy, but that, like, kind of more upbeat heavy, which is equally as fucking fantastic and heavy. So I just hope for them they get into a period of, like good graces and good luck.
To be honest,
these guys deserve that.
To be honest, I hope they just continue. I don't give a fuck what you guys do. Just
they will.
fucking continue, because we all love Mastodon.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Without a doubt. If you guys ever watch this, thank you for all that you've done
Absolutely,
for
100%.
music and for metal and for, you know, the genre and for the beauty that you guys craft every time.
You have made me extremely happy as a music listener.
Yeah.
And for that, I thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have done many illegal things while listening to your music. So for that, again, I thank you.
I already told you they'll never find the bodies. You're fine. Anyway, I'm going to echo those sentiments as well, and the fact that we reference them all the time, like, you can hear their influence in a lot of
All
music
over.
now. In terms of like melodic dissonance, This is one of the first bands I think of in terms of just crafting unique melodies. Like, I hear a melody that sounds remotely like Mastodon, I fucking reference it in a review.
Yep.
And everyone will get it.
Yeah.
You know?
It sounds like Mastodon. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our store is there, but our Patreon link is there as well. And patrons, we finally have something for you. I know we've been kind of neglecting our Patreon for a while.
Sorry.
But we have something for you. For our next batch of rankings after we do Crowbar, we are each going to rely on you to help us pick it. Each one of us are going to pick 4 bands, and you will vote on which of these 4 bands from us that you want to see us rank. So we have a whole new batch of 4 to rank in the future. So we're going to need your input on this. We're hoping we get a lot of cool responses. We're all thinking of our list right now, and
some oddballs in there.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting. Nick and I talk about this quite frequently about what we want to throw on there, and
we can pick whatever. The boss can't veto this one.
right, exactly.
Only the patrons.
Yep, only the patrons.
You have all the control.
All the power is now yours.
And remember, with great power comes great responsibility. That's what Uncle Ben always told me.
Yeah.
Do we tell them the safe word, or? Oh no, we're talking about. Okay, we're talking about.
Yeah,
safe
no,
word.
Yeah, we're not
All right,
talking
okay,
about...
okay, all right, never mind.
And then last but not least, now we can be a little bit more open about this. We have Denver Death Fest coming
yes.
on 4/20. God, to spend 4/20 in Denver is going to be...
At a death metal concert.
At a death metal concert, nonetheless, is going to be magical for a few of us here.
Yes, we will be there.
We will be there, as well as some other bands. Actually, the full list of what we have to offer is going to be released on January the 1st. But right now, tickets have gone up on sale at denverdeathfest.com. In fact, coming even quicker than that, that's what she said. On Black Friday, actually, the 3-day pass, which is normally $60, the 3-day pass for Denver Death Fest will be $40.
$40.
33% off if you do the math right. 33.3 repeating, actually. I'm an Albert Einstein. No big deal. Continue.
Not Albert Einstein.
So 33.3% off and some change, some other numbers. Einstein here.
3 repeating, by the way.
3 repeating, by the way. Yep. Yeah. So that will be your time. It'll run from Black Friday until Sunday. So it'll run all weekend. $40 for 3 days.
Totally worth it.
But yeah, it's totally worth it. I can't release the bands on there, but there are some. Let me tell you, there's some fucking
cool
bangers on
ones,
there. We got kind of lucky with some people in the lineup. So
I hope you guys like Winger, because we got Winger.
Woo!
For
we
like 3
got
nights.
for all 3 days. They are.
She's only 17.
The headliner
Call
of
the
all
cops.
3 sets. But yeah, please join us for that. Again, go to denverdeathfest.com for updates, and of course we will have updates. And I think as much as we talked about it, it's going to happen too, that we're going to do some giveaways on here.
Yes, we need to get
for a
back to some
3-day
giveaways.
pass. Yep, so we're going to get some giveaways for a 3-day pass for Denver Death Fest, as well as some other sweet shit, because I know we have some merch coming for Denver Death Fest as well, so that's pretty fucking cool.
We're gearing up for that thing. It's going to be cool.
We are gearing up, dude. It's coming.
It's going to be a
at
really
long
cool,
last.
very special thing for us.
Yep.
It's the first time we've done something like this. We're very excited.
I now hold more respect for people that do these festivals all the time. Props to you, Ryan Taylor, for Maryland Death Fest, because goddamn, what a pain in the balls. But at the same time, it's been really fun, and I look forward to what's coming in regards to not only Denver Death Fest, but things we may do in the future. Because it's pretty fucking fun.
Yep.
But yeah, that brings us to the end. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for continuing to tune in. Since there's now over 13,000 of you, which is fucking insane.
You are the reason for our season.
Yeah. You are the reason that we keep going. This has been nothing but an incredible amount of fun, and Thralls, at least for all of us, I think has become a pretty big part of our lives, and something that we look forward to doing. And
I don't know what I would do if I couldn't be a total jackass with you guys on camera. I'd have to be a jackass in public, and then I'd probably get arrested.
Thank you to all of the Thralls. We love doing this. One of the coolest parts for me has always been the fact that I get to do this with 3 of my best friends. It's just pretty awesome. But we again thank all of you, and we will catch you later.